The following podcast contains strong language. Hello, and welcome back to the Ciné Rambles podcast. You're listening to Nick
And Andrew.
and we're here with your weekly fix of film-related reviews and ramblings.
So how have you been, Nick?
I've been doing good, yeah. How have you been?
I'm alright. What have you been watching?
I've been watching a lot of his Dark Materials, actually. I've gotten quite into it,
It's good.
so
It's
hopefully you can do your next fundamentals on it soon,
Yeah.
because we won't be able to spoil it all.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in there because it's. I've read all 3 books, and we should talk about that actually now quickly
Oh yeah, sure.
because apparently I made a mistake. Although I'm not sure about this, but we'll see. Penny pointed out to me when I said that in the book you never have Lord Asriel delivering Lyra to Oxford in the flood,
Yes.
which you see it in the beginning of his Dark Materials, the TV show. But then Penny said, actually, push his glasses up nose.
Snorts.
You do see that, but it's in the prequel book, which is the Book of Dust.
But is that canon? That's the question.
Well, it is canon because Philip Pullman wrote them all. So it is canon to him, I guess. It's part of the universe, so it is fair enough, but the series is like a direct adaptation of the first book, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, clearly, I had no idea about that because I haven't read the prequel book, so...
Yeah. Okay.
There is one thing, a mini fundamental, here we go.
Mini fundamental. Go on.
Part of what I love about the book is that for the first book, you see almost all of it through Lyra's eyes.
Yeah.
It's all from Lyra's point of view, or most of it is. So it's sort of, about this loss of innocence as she grows, sees how messed up the real world is,
Yeah.
And you get that's a really good theme, and you get a big sense of that throughout the book because you see everything through Lyra's eyes. Whereas in the series, they show you a lot of other random shit. Like, you get all these things from the Magisterium.
Yeah, it's not as focused.
Yeah, which is fine, but they reveal a lot of things that you don't know until much later in the story.
Yeah, and in fact, the stuff that doesn't involve Lyra, the
Yeah.
guy, I don't know his name, but the guy with the snake who sort of buddies with Miss Coulter.
Oh, yeah, him. Yeah.
Like, all the stuff with him, I'm not anywhere near as invested in as I am the stuff with Lyra.
Yeah.
I'm still not entirely understanding what he's doing anyway.
Well, he features in the second book quite a lot.
Okay.
So they sort of wedged him in. He is in the first book,
Yeah.
but they've wedged him in a lot more. But he then reveals a lot of stuff that you don't find out until much later through Lyra's eyes. So that when you do see it through Lyra's eyes in the TV show, it's much less impactful
Yeah.
because we already know these things. It's like, it's just less punchy than it should be. But that's a small grievance.
It's a small one.
Yeah, the series is good. It is good. It holds
Yeah.
up, I think. Anyway,
What have you been watching this week, Andy?
well, I haven't been right. So I've continued watching Avatar and Killing Eve.
One makes you very angry and one makes you not as angry.
Very, very happy.
Yeah.
I just watched Upper's Last Days, and it made me very sad.
Oh,
It's such a good episode. So sad though. Anyway, and Killing Eve just makes me angry because it's the writing has just gone downhill, and the editing has also just gone downhill, and it's just weird. Anyway, but I've also watched. So when my dad watches Doc Martin, right?
Right. So what is Doc Martin?
So I think it was originally on BBC, but he's watching it. They must be reruns, I assume, but he's watching it on ITV. But I could be wrong. It may have been an ITV original, but and basically it's about this doctor.
Called Martin?
Like the only doctor. Yep.
Good.
And he's like the only doctor for miles around, and he's on this tiny coastal village in Cornwall, like the middle of fucking nowhere. So any medical issues, they call him, and he's got to go deal with it. And the big thing is like he's a doctor, but if he ever sees blood, he throws up.
Right. Doesn't seem like he should really be in that profession, to be honest.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that's the whole thing. So it's supposed to be like comedic, and it's been going on for fucking ages, right? But when every single episode, the climax of the story is there's a medical emergency, Doc Martin has to go and deal with it, but oh no, there's blood, can he handle it? Oh, he throws up a bit, and then the problem is solved. I've seen like, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes of this now, and it's always the same.
And how many episodes of there are there?
There's fucking loads. And also, it's really highly rated on IMDb, and it's like, why? Every single fucking episode is basically the same.
Also, surely
It's really genuinely confusing.
if you're in an operating theatre, you've got the person on the slab cut open, and you've got a mask on. If you start vomiting, that's going to start like dribbling out of the mask and like. Ugh.
Well, no, he's not like a fucking mortician or a.
No, like a surgeon. If there's like a heart surgery or something.
Well, he's not a surgeon. He's a doctor. He's like a what is it? A GP.
He's a GP. So
Yeah.
wow, this is exciting.
But he's a GP, but because the closest hospital is 100 or 50 miles away or something stupid, he has to go and deal with all these medical emergencies. And like one of the episodes I watched, this woman slipped and fell on some rocks, and she couldn't feel her legs or something, or she'd hurt her spine, and then she'd managed to get out of bed. Like her spine had really hurt, and she was like, "Oh, I can get out of bed." And then when she got out of bed, she slipped and fell on a broken glass, and the broken glass like stabbed her in the back, and there was blood everywhere.
Why was there a broken glass on the floor?
Guess what happened, Nick? Guess what happened?
Did he throw up when he tried to deal with it?
Yes, he did.
I mean,
that was literally it.
I suppose as a comedy, it reminds me of something like One Punch Man, which is obviously like somewhat satirical of anime, and it's like, oh, every episode is, no, there's a bad guy, oh, he punches him and it's fine.
Yeah.
But
there's fucking 9 seasons of this, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
But like, I could imagine this series if it was like a proper full on like self-aware sitcom kind of thing, or like but like the point of it was like it was a parody of those kind of like medical dramas.
I mean, it would be fine, but literally every single fucking episode for
like,
9 seasons,
like
it's the same fucking thing.
Like if that was like the joke and that was like the self-aware thing, like oh, it always ends in throwing up, lol. Like if that was it, but like it sounds like it's not. I don't know. That's not very well explained, but you know what I mean. Like it feels like I don't know how deliberate. I mean, obviously it's deliberate, but
yeah,
it's just a weird show.
It's something else. I don't know. I mean, it is quite funny because Doc Martin is quite funny. Like he's, quick talking, no nonsense, and everyone around him seems to be like a blithering idiot, which is. I mean, fine. It's got its perks, but I just have no idea. Firstly, how it's gone on for so long, relying on this one fucking joke that's not even that good.
Well, that's why that has to be therefore, like in some way self-aware.
Yeah,
because otherwise, surely it can't. Because that is also, the same joke.
The other attempts at humour are just so bad. It's just so weird. Anyway. So that's enough of that.
Well, that's Doc Martin. Should we...
Yep. There's also... No, I've got another thing to say, Nick.
Okay, sorry.
So Netflix has The Floor is Lava. So do you remember Total Wipeout?
I do, fondly.
Yeah. Right. So now, really heavily Americanized Total Wipeout.
Right.
Replace the water with red water that is lava, and then cover it in digital enhancements so it looks like it's hot and smoky, right?
Right.
And then put teams against each other, and they've got to get across this obstacle course and get to the other side. And whoever wins, they get 10 grand and a fucking lava lamp.
Wait, seriously? They get a lava lamp in 2020?
Yeah, genuinely. Instead of a trophy, they get a lava lamp. It's I don't know, right? I want to say it's bad, but I've watched 3 episodes today already.
What? Why?
I don't know, right? So one thing I do want to point out, right, is the first episode was 38 minutes long, okay?
Mm.
And each team's run to get across this obstacle course takes sub 10 minutes. right? And also then they edit it down a lot, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, I reckon it could all fit into a neat 25, 30 minutes. 20, probably even 20 minutes to fit all this in. Then they pad out the other 20 minutes with a load of fucking bollocks. So the first, 10 minutes of the show are like, oh, here's all different routes you could take around the obstacle course. And it's like, why are you showing me this? I don't care.
I thought the point of an obstacle course was it was linear, and you could only go the one direction.
No. So this is supposed to be the floor is lava, so there's 3 ways across the room.
Right, okay.
But there's 3 ways across the room, right? But one of them is always really clearly the one you're supposed to take. So, surprise, surprise, all 3 teams always take the same fucking route. Because that's the easiest route. Anyway, but this fucking nerd who narrates it is really annoying, firstly. But they do this thing where it's if John pulls this rope, it will reveal this secret bridge. Okay? And then he was like, oh, John's pulled the rope, the bridge is revealed, and he's jumped over the bridge. Good on you, John. And then the next team will come along, and it's like, oh, right, Steve, if Steve pulls the rope, a secret bridge will appear. Do you remember 30 minutes ago when John did it? Here's a clip. It's like, we just watched that. Why are you showing it to us again? And the third team comes around, it's like, oh, here's Barry. If Barry pulls the rope, a secret bridge will appear. Here's Steve and John doing the same thing. It's so fucking stupid. And it just really, really triggers me. Because it's like, why are you showing us this? We just fucking saw it.
Andy, have you...
Every single time he explains it as if he's explaining it for the first fucking time. And it's just so annoying.
That's this weird thing of American TV. Because, I watched a lot of Kitchen Nightmares USA in last year of uni, because it was on a lot, I guess. And that's, the frenetic nature of the edit. But, again, yeah you're right. It'll be like, oh... They're cooking their food, but will John run out of time? Find out in a bit. Oh, John, he's back. He's running out. Will he run out of time? It's like, this was 2 minutes ago. But it's because you remember the gift shop sketch from Mitch and Webb?
Yeah.
That's not even an exaggeration. That's just what Kitchen Nightmares is like. It's literally so they'll go to a commercial and they'll spend a minute doing the coming up after the commercial, and then they'll come back and do a minute of before the commercial. And I don't think American ads are even that long, compared to, because they have more of them. I think they're shorter than in England, where we'll have about 5 minutes of them. But then also, we were watching this on Sky, on demand. So the advert breaks weren't even there. So it was literally a minute of coming up after the break. All this. John's running out of time. Sarah's cutting a crab up wrong. Oh, and Jeff is ruining his onions. Find out more after the break. We're back after the break. Oh, John is running out of time. It's we know. Oh my God. And then it'll be free, and then also it'll be, they'll have that, and then it'll go, meanwhile, something completely unrelated is happening, and then they'll cut back to it it's weird how they took so if you think about MasterChef here, and they'll be okay, here's your teams, you've got an hour to do this challenge, off you go, and it proceeds in a linear fashion. We'll have about 10 minutes or so, which is the hours sort of sped up in chunks, and we'll be oh, this is then progressing linearly through the dish until the end. It all makes sense. Yeah. In American TV, or at least in Kitchen Nightmares USA, it's okay, teams, here's their challenge. Meanwhile, this is John, and he has a really tough home life. Right, John, how was your dish? Yeah, it was good, cool. Right, back to Kelly. Kelly's in the middle of his dish. Why are you non-linearizing it? You're not Nolan.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean as well. Oh my God. But it's just so stupid, and it's so annoying. The other thing is, why... For Netflix is a streaming service, so the length of your program is completely arbitrary. It doesn't matter how long it is, because your episodes can be as long as they need to be.
Yeah.
So if you could only fill 20 minutes of content, fine, have it be 20 minutes long. That's completely okay. It doesn't matter. Why pad it out with an additional 20 minutes of complete bollocks that has absolutely no value whatsoever. And it's so fucking stupid. Like, oh my god, it's. The thing is, though, it is entertaining because you do. It's it's like why Total Wipeout was entertaining because you like watching people fall off things.
Well, it's also funny. I remember in Total Wipeout, the best thing was like, oh, you'd get the contestant and be like, oh, you're gonna do really well. Yeah, I'm gonna own this course. You're gonna do the big red balls. Yeah, I'm gonna do the big red balls. And then we cut to them falling off the big red balls in dramatic slow mo. That was always cathartic.
Yeah. There is definitely a lot of that. Yeah. The other thing is right for this show. So that they have teams of 3. They have 3 teams of 3, and whoever does the best gets the money, right? So far, in 3 episodes, out of 9 teams I've seen, I have found there has been 1 team that I didn't completely detest. Because some of them, they're just complete fucking pricks. Like, there was this one guy, it's like, oh yes, I'm a geology teacher.
Automatic prick.
Yeah. It's like, we work in the S&M department, but S&M stands for science and math. And it's like, oh, fuck you. And he's got like this bleach blonde hair, and he's like, oh yeah, I do mud runs, but the mud runs are too easy, so I do them dressed in a tuxedo because they're too easy otherwise.
He's trying to be cool.
He was such a fucking bellend. And it's like... Well, ironically, he fell off at the first fucking hurdle, which was, good. But it's just, why are all these contestants, why do they go out and find these people who are just complete fucking knobs?
Well, see, because there's this whole thing about, like, researching for game shows and stuff. Like, they specifically pick people who I think they'll be good on TV. So I guess with, like, these obstacle course things, they must pick people who are twats, so that they can set them up as twats, and then be like, well, you're almost certainly going to fall off the obstacles, and then everyone's going to get a bit of catharsis out of it. Like, that must be the logic.
I guess. But then, like, the one team that I liked, they were, like, these 3 lads. And they, like, just came out of university and they wanted to move out of their parents' house. Like, that's why they were doing it. And they were just all, like, nice, ordinary people. And so that when they won, I was like, fucking yes, good on them. Because they succeeded. And it's like, you like supporting good people.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like everyone else is just, like, a fucking wanker. So it's like... They're the best of a bad bunch, I guess. I don't know. We talked about this for a lot longer than I thought we would.
So the news. Unless are you done on Flora's Law?
Yeah, I'm done.
I mean, do you recommend it? Is the key question.
If you like watching a complete train wreck, then fucking go for it. And you can skip probably the first 15 minutes because it's just some fucking dickhead talking about the different ways across the obstacle course, and it's like. He repeats himself like 5 million times per episode, and it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Okay, so right.
To the news.
Okay, so in the news, this was actually an article from last week, but I just completely forgot to say it, so I'm doing it this week. But it might be some old news. But the Oscars ceremony for next year has been pushed back from end of February now to end of April. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, so the question then is the cutoff date for, like, Oscars availability going to be moved as well?
Well, you'd assume so. You'd assumed it'd be moved to the end of February then, or at least...
Maybe. Well, then...
Because if they're giving an extra 2 months, you would expect them to give an extra 2 months for films to get in.
Maybe. Oh, well, I mean, the problem is then, I mean, films are already taking the piss with, like, coming out in time to be Oscar eligible, but still not coming out properly until, like, March.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is going to be like, oh, yeah, it's a 2020 release. It's in a private cinema in LA for 5 people in March 2021. And then it'll go on general release in like May 2021. But it's a 2020 release, you must understand.
Well, I reckon it'll be just dominated with Netflix stuff, won't it? Or streaming stuff, at least, because they're eligible now, aren't they?
Yeah, so. I think we did mention that last time, or not last time, but like we have mentioned it. They've now, there's the minimum barrier about like a cinema release has been got rid of, as has the sound mixing category.
Yeah.
So that's good at least. But I mean, the interesting thing is like what the Oscars will look like next year, considering. But there has been several things coming out on like streaming services throughout the crisis and the lockdown. So it's not like there's been no films coming out, but I don't think. I mean, to be fair, most of it gets...
Extraction will get Best Picture.
No, we know it will be Sonic. Come on.
Oh yeah, that's true. Sorry, Sonic.
But I mean, I think like to be fair, most of the things which get Oscar nominated come out really late in the year anyway.
Yeah.
And from the looks of things, we're going to be more or less out of lockdown by about August anyway, so maybe it'll be relatively normal. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, probably. It's only because the production have been cut off as well, haven't they?
And I think there are films are now starting to go back into production. But I've been reading on like some of the groups I'm in on Facebook and stuff. Like some people have had to go and rewrite a script and make some of the scenes like COVID safe. So like a scene which was written indoors originally is now to be moved outdoors as long as it doesn't affect the story.
Really?
This is something I've read.
Can't they just set it? Oh, right, I see what you mean, for
Because
the actors to be COVID safe.
Yeah. So they can film it now and have it come out when it's supposed to come out.
I see.
I think they're only doing it on like scenes where it's like it doesn't matter either way. But like,
yeah.
But that's interesting. So we're going to have a lot of outdoor cinematography.
So there'll be like a considerable lack of intimacy in scenes, won't there?
I would love to see like a sex scene cut together, but during like 2 meters social distance. So we've got like just like telephoto lens close-ups of each of them and just Kuleshov effect it all.
Really could work.
Yeah, just forced perspective even.
Yeah.
It's like one really far away. One close the camera, just position the cameras and like on top of each other. It could work.
Yeah, it could work. Okay.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, that's basically all the news. I mean, the main thing is, obviously, with the blog, well, I mean, I'll do it now on the podcast anyway, the Oscars around them. We have to move it to later in the year.
Yeah, that's what kicked us off.
Yeah. I'm always excited for it. I mean, the Oscars aren't great for many reasons, but I just love them as a thing to talk about. Like, I get so angry over them as well.
Yeah. It's very, they aren't really cranked up to what they're meant to be, are they?
I mean, the problem is they're so political in terms of like, I mean, the fact that when we do our predictions for the awards, it's no longer about which was the best film. It's about which one is the Academy going to go for.
Yeah, which one ticks the most boxes.
Yeah, which illustrates the divide. Because if you like, if you go to the 70s even, the Best Picture nominees for like 1977 included Star Wars. Like Jaws was the Best Picture nominee. Like they were nominating the best successful films of the year, the ones which had the most acclaim. And now it's not all baity. A lot of the time they will normally have a few which are like genuinely deserving. Like last year, The Parasite, of course.
Yeah.
That last year was actually a reasonably good selection. But like it is definitely more about just there's a lot of sort of baiting going on.
Well, because the Post one. Do you remember the Post?
I do.
The Washington Post, which for some reason my dad watched, right, and then like 2 weeks later watched, or even maybe a week later, like watched again, but watched like a janky subtitled version from YouTube, like, and then couldn't remember having seen it the first time round. And I was like, I witnessed this film. It's not that good. Clearly, it's very forgettable.
Yeah, I exclusively remember The Post just because it was like the most baity Oscar film I've ever seen. The fact that it just has completely slunk away into the shadows of history is very satisfying to me. Because it's like,
it won, and it's like, how? It
didn't.
Did it not win?
No.
I thought it won.
No, what was that, 2017? I think Shape of Water won instead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember it being like, oh yeah, 2017.
Well, the thing is, it was just like the baitest film I've ever seen. It was like, okay, so it's based on a true story, and it's about like the media, box one.
Best Actress.
Oh, okay. Was that for Meryl Streep, perchance?
Yes, of course it was.
Because Meryl Streep's in it, which is the other baity thing. It was directed by Steven Spielberg. That's another baity thing. It's just, it was like such a box ticky kind of film. It played everything so safe. Like the trailer sent me to sleep.
It's such a fucking old person's film.
Yeah, well, then the Academy are all old white people, though, aren't they? They're all like in their 60s.
That is true. But also, like, print media's fucking dead, right? Who cares? Firstly,
yeah,
it's about Watergate, which is not controversial at all, really, anymore, because it's
pretty clear cut. Yeah.
And it's like, the whole crux of the film is, should we post this thing because it's technically breaking the law? And it's like, well, who else broke the fucking law? And it's just like, it's just dumb. It's just so, like, it's such a, obviously old person film. Like, because the old people were the only ones who'd give a fuck.
Well, the other thing as well that I find, which is probably why the Oscars have gone so much like this, sort of this back and forth game of stuff, is because obviously to have a film nominated in the Oscars, you have to fund an Oscar campaign. So all that happens is like if you want your film to be nominated, you just like send a for your consideration DVD package to the Academy. You organise like a really fancy dinner where you invite all of them around. It's all just like money.
Yeah, it is. I've heard that. There was a film that had some controversy about it because of that reason. I think it is Shakespeare in Love, possibly.
Maybe.
A film that everyone didn't think was very good, but it still won the Best Picture Oscar. And it's because like the producer or someone spent a shitload of money on the Oscar campaign thing.
Which is also why you just never see like indie films in the like nominations. You might get indie with like Whiplash or Birdman if you're very lucky, and they've got like a good enough like buzz or like people involved. But like I mean, to be fair, Moonlight got an Oscar nomination, I suppose, and that was definitely indie.
Well, Parasite arguably as well.
Well, I mean, Parasite, sure. But still, Bong Joon-ho is like a big, he's probably the most famous South Korean director besides like Park Chan-wook. And he has done English stuff before, so he has some draw to him. Like, he's not indie in the same way as like, say, Robert Eggers, who can, well, I don't know if he like put Lighthouse forward at all. He probably didn't nominate it, because I mean, I don't think he cares. I feel like he wouldn't care about that.
Yeah. Also, I feel like the people who make the indie films are also probably going to be anti-Oscars, aren't they? And anti-Hollywood.
Probably, yeah.
Which is a shame, like, because fair enough having that sentiment, but there's a difference between having that sentiment and, refusing to use any of the pre-existing things.
Well, I mean...
Because fuck you, but then I think a better way is to use the pre-existing things to do something better with it, to improve those things.
Yeah, but not all indie.
Do you know what I mean?
Not all indie directors are Lars von Trier, though.
No, true.
I think that's a bit of a generalisation.
But there was another thing, like we studied these. I can't remember where specifically, but they were South American filmmakers, and they used the thing called. They may have been Colombian, actually. I can't remember. I'm not sure. But somewhere in South America, and they used this thing called guerrilla filmmaking.
Oh, yeah.
So they would make these fucking guerrilla films, and it's like, oh, they cannot be shown in America or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, no one's fucking heard of you.
Wait, hang on. There's no reason a guerrilla film can't be shown in America, surely.
Well, I think they were like, we don't want this to be shown in theatres. We were like, we want to travel around and show it to people.
Yeah, that's not going to do very well.
There was this whole thing about they don't want just anyone to see it or something. It was like, well, you're not really furthering your cause,
surely
are you?
If you don't want anyone to see it, you don't make a film.
Yeah, exactly.
That's also what the point of media is, to share stories with people.
Yeah, it was like I said with fucking Dogma 95, like, what's the fucking point then? Those things exist for a reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was a really random ramble.
Should we move on then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I recently have been watching some of the Louis Theroux Weird Weekends.
Okay.
On Netflix. Because, they're good, and I quite like Louis Theroux. And he does one of his documentaries. There's a series, they're all on Netflix, and he goes to various places and stuff. And I watched a couple, but he did one on big cat owners in America. And lo and behold, before my eyes appears Joe Exotic.
Wow.
A good, I want to say 8 years, maybe even longer, before Tiger King came out.
Right.
And it is really interesting seeing two different documentary makers take on the same person.
Okay, so what differences were there between those two takes then?
So, obviously, Tiger King manipulates you very well, and I want to say something else about it quickly.
Yeah.
I found out recently that apparently they cut out a lot of Joe Exotic was actually spouting a lot of racism and was said a load of racist remarks, and they cut out almost all of it, or probably all of it. I don't remember him being racist.
Not explicitly, no.
No. And they cut out all of his racism specifically to make you feel more empathy with him.
Yeah.
It's like, that is very, very manipulative.
That is prime documentary manipulation,
Because, that's not the truth at all then, is it? Because if you're showing us a version of him that's been censored and cleaned specifically so that we like him more.
Yeah, and considering that the documentary, he is in jail, and but the whole point is like he was in jail, but look how much of a nice man he was. So it's very much fitting an agenda there, rather than trying to give like an accurate expose or something.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So they cut out a lot of that. They want you to make him think that he's fucking crazy. So yeah, they achieve that. Like, you do think he's crazy. But they very much, like, I don't know, make him lovable, don't they?
Yeah, they make him out to be like almost like misunderstood, kind of like good at heart.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas in Louis Theroux, it's a lot more subtle, firstly. And this is definitely before Joe Exotic snapped with all the Carole Baskin stuff.
Right.
So it's a lot more subtle, and he's just sort of talking to Joe, and they're playing with, like, Joe's playing with, like, a bear cub and a tiger cub or something. And it's really interesting. So the whole thing's like, oh, there's going to be a tornado, so we have to go and save all these big cats. And then Louis follows him around and talks to him about all these things. And then they go into this cage and have this interview. And it's a lot more, like, there's a lot more to do with the morals. Do you know what I mean? Like, Tiger King isn't necessarily, it's like, oh, he's crazy. But with Louis Theroux, he's just like, do you not think this is wrong?
So he asked like the proper like question, whilst Tiger King sort of skirts around them.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Louis directly asks him, like, don't you think they should be wild? Don't you think, why are you doing this? Do you not think you're doing this wrong? Do you not think it would be better if there would be no tigers in captivity? And obviously Joe gives his fucking bullshit answers. The one bit that stood out to me was he had a question. So Louis was like, oh, so what would happen if the tiger got me? If I went into the cage and the tiger got me? And Joe was just like, oh, I'd shoot you in the head.
Oh, wow. Not the tiger.
And Louis was like, what? You'd shoot me in the head? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd put you out of your misery straight away. And Louis was like, okay, well, why wouldn't you shoot the tiger?
Yeah.
And Joe was like, oh, I think it would be better to shoot you because you might not survive your injuries or something. And it was like, what?
Jesus.
It's like, you're fucking mental. So it was like, it was really interesting to see the difference in how two people handle the same guy.
And so how's that impacted your opinion of Tiger King as a documentary?
Well, so Tiger King, it just skirts, being a documentary, I think, because of how heavily manipulated it is. And I think, not the Louis Theroux, obviously Louis Theroux only was with him for, a day or, a couple of days just to interview him and then leave and go and talk to someone else. So obviously it's a very different, because he's got like this tiny snapshot into Joe's mind, whereas Tiger King is a full-blown, 6 years was it, or 4 years?
Something like that. Certainly at least 5 they were there.
Yeah, doing this expose on this guy. But then, you are being manipulated, intensely manipulated the entire time. And for something that's about Joe Exotic, there's several episodes about other people where Joe's barely featured,
Yeah, that's true.
It is interesting. I'm not saying it's undeniably a brilliant documentary because of, it's very, very entertaining. And like we were talking earlier, like when was the last time a documentary got this much buzz?
That's what I was going to ask. So, like, why do you think Tiger King was as successful as it was? Because for the one thing, there's like, obviously it came out at such a good time when we were just going into lockdown.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like that can't be all of it. There's got to be some element of it.
Well, I think because he's obviously a brilliant documentary maker. I think it is right time, right place. And on top of that, it is a very, very, very interesting subject.
Yeah.
With so many twists and turns that it is murder, mayhem and madness, isn't it? But for a lot of people who are like, I don't know about you, and maybe, I don't know what it's like in America, but I had no idea anything like that was going on.
No, I knew, certainly in like Las Vegas, there's a lot of like people owning tigers and using them and stuff, but I didn't know anything about what's in Tiger King.
But, my only exposure to that is like, I knew, is it Mike Tyson owns a tiger? And it's like,
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was just a rarity because he's an eccentric millionaire boxer who just wants a cool animal.
Yeah.
I thought that was a rarity. I didn't realise how fucking insane it was. I didn't realise how big this whole operation was.
But yeah, because it's interesting considering, documentaries aren't massively, like, in the public spotlight. There is now like a subculture of documentary fans from Netflix.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, Tiger King was really quite a spectacle.
So, I think the last one that was as big as the Tiger King was what, like, Making a Murderer?
Yeah, maybe. Must have been. That was 2015, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because that was like Tiger King was, if you hadn't, everyone had seen it, and if you hadn't, you were out of a loop. And yeah, Making Murder is probably the only other thing I can think of that's like that. But it was such a phenomenon.
And I think it's something to do with, like, how... Because if you think about other documentaries, like normal documentaries of films, right?
Yeah.
That are 2 hours of this, like, here you go, like, look at Senna, that's his entire life squeezed into 2 hours.
Right.
Whereas Tiger King is like, well, we'll have a series so we can have as long as we want to get into every single nook and cranny of this story.
Which ironically then doesn't actually do.
Well, yeah. But I think must be part of it, is they've got the length of time to explore everything they want.
Yeah.
But they've also got a lot more time to get across their narrative. Because another brilliant, like, documentary series that Netflix has done is the Ted Bundy tapes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's 4 or 5 episodes.
I think, yeah, it's only about 4 hours long in total, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's really, really good. And every episode is something new that fitting it into a 2-hour film would be harder to do. But they've got double the runtime, so it works. And I think having it in the bite-sized piece, not that an hour episode is bite-sized, but it's certainly, if you want to break it up, you can.
Yeah, because it's interesting though, because so I saw an advert for Millions, which is this new Sky documentary series about the McDonald's monopoly, and like the big tagline behind the advert was like, "It's the new Tiger King." Like Tiger King's now become synonymous as like popular documentary.
Yeah,
which is I don't know, I find something really strange about that.
Yeah,
like not Tiger King's bad, but like it always seems like anomalous how big of an impact it had.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Like it's strange that it's had such a big impact.
I think you're right. I think it's a combination of like it came out at like just a perfect time. Like it really couldn't have been the best time to come out, and also the content of it is so sort of strange and sort of like you've got to see it to believe it.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, I think.
Also, I think like because also especially as it's like quite open ended in terms of like its its portrayal and what it's trying to say and like whose side it's on. I think there's a real water cooler quality to it as well.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
That probably helps. But yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Anyway, that was supposed to be quick, and that took another 20 minutes, so that's good. Right.
Shall we, speaking of documentaries...
Yes.
It's our new section.
It's our new section that is, I mean, if you could think of a better name, please do tell us, because I hate to call it this, but it's Nick's Documentary Education...
Yay! Or it's Touch Nick the Void.
Fucking hell.
Oh my god, I just realised something.
What?
If you've got any suggestions for what to call this section, or any other correspondence, you can email us at cinerambles@gmail.com. We've been for like 45 minutes before I said that.
Yeah, that's appalling, Nick.
But yeah, so in this section, as a sort of not a retaliation, but as a parallel thing to Andrew's film education, I'm watching some documentaries that I've never seen before, which Andrew believes I should, because he's really into documentaries, and I've not seen as many. So, what have we been watching this week, Andrew?
So, Nick watched Touching the Void.
I did.
Which is a really, really, really good documentary. It's about 2 mountain climbers and their book boy, or whatever the fuck he is. Some
tent keeper.
nerd.
I don't know.
Yeah, the tent keeper.
Who just sat there being like, I think they might be dead.
Yeah, pretty much. That's his whole job.
He was useless, wasn't he?
He is fucking useless, isn't he?
He almost might as well have not been in the documentary, to be honest. But anyway, let's...
Anyway, so it's about Joe Simpson and Simon Yates, and they go...
Up a mountain.
Yeah, basically they climb a mountain, and on the way back down, one of them... Is it Joe Simpson?
It's Joe, yeah, who...
Yeah, he trips and, like, breaks his leg, and it's really, really gross, and, like, he breaks his leg, so now they're like, fuck, right, how are we going to get down this mountain? Because it's like a snowstorm is going on, it's, like, really, really perilous, and they're climbing down. They've managed to find a system where Simon can, like, scoot Joe down through this, like, pulley system with the ropes. And then, because Joe, he's broken his leg, he then, like, falls off a cliff or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sort of goes over the edge of the hang, and then...
Yeah. So he's hanging off. And there's this really excellent scene, and so it's all done through, like, talking heads, and then they have this recreation in, like, going on as well.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's really, really good. So there's this really, tense scene where Joe is just hanging there, holding on to this rope for dear life, and Simon is on, like, the edge of this cliff, like, clinging on for dear life, and he makes the decision to cut the rope and drop Joe, presumably to his death.
As far as he knows.
And then Simon then goes back to his base camp with the other the tent keeping
They have
nerd.
a waste of space.
Yeah, very negative towards him. For some
Well, I
reason.
mean, he didn't do much, did he?
No. Then you find out that Joe is actually alive, and he manages to, through, like, sheer force of willpower,
Yeah.
crawl back to the base camp
In
and
proper, like,
survives.
Revenant fashion.
Yeah, and it is so good. It's such a good documentary. It's very gripping. It's very entertaining. It's like... So what did you think about it?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Well, okay, I've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
First thing, I know this was like, it was like, what, in 2000 it happened?
It happened in 1985.
1985?
Yeah.
That early?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the whole thing is, like, they want to be the first people to climb this mountain.
Right.
Or,
Okay.
like, climb this mountain from the sheer side or something stupid.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, 'cause especially Waste of Space, who sat at the bottom, is like, I think they might be dead. Shall I do something proactive? No, I'll wait here and just hope one of them is, like... And then the other guy, Simon, comes back down and is like, I think Thingy's dead. And like, okay, well, we'll wait here a few more days. It's like, why is no one called Mountain Rescue?
Yeah.
Like, surely, even if he's dead, recover the body with, like...
Yeah.
That never got answered. I was a bit like, what?
Well, firstly, it's in the middle of Peru in 1985, so
I
there's,
guess.
like, there is no mountain rescue.
But, like, surely if Thingy wanted something proactive to do, he could, like, go down to the nearby village and be like, Polizia, with a, like, what language they speak in Peru? I assume not Spanish. But yeah, I thought it was really well done. I thought it was also, it's interesting. So, like, so it's talking heads with these dramatic reconstructions. And what's interesting is, like, so obviously the guy, Joe, is alive today, talking as a talking head from the beginning.
Yes.
So we know, so for the first half of the film, we know, like, okay, this documentary's here for a reason. Something's going to go wrong. Like, we got to, like, it was like 16 minutes in, it's like, oh, they've climbed the mountain. Like, right, well, it's not going to be an hour of them peacefully going down the mountain, nothing happening. So it's like, well, what happened? Then we get to what happened, and then it becomes, well, we know he survives, but how does he survive?
Yeah.
Which I think that's a really interesting, like, because I think if it was just would he survive or not, I don't think it would be as compelling as seeing this, in the same way as, like, the Revenant, how he's, like, with a destroyed leg, no equipment, no water, how he got from the inside of, like, a crevasse back to civilization by, like, sheer force of will and just, like, pushing the human body to the limits. So I thought that was, like, set up really well.
Yeah, it's really good. So what I do want to talk about is, obviously, what do you think of recreation then in documentary?
Well, I think because obviously documentary as a type of film is a visual format,
Yeah.
and I think talking heads aren't a very visual thing at all.
No.
So I feel like, and especially if you've got a documentary as a film and you want to tell this story, but if no one was around to film it, it makes sense. You go and recreate it. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah. So, do you think it would work better as just a straight dramatization, like 127 hours?
No, and I think because with the talking heads, I think having the sort of, especially because 127 hours I haven't seen, but there's a thing about like he has his camera on him or something, so does like video diaries.
Yeah.
Because like here's the thing with like single protagonist narratives, is, unlike a novel where we reread the inside protagonist's head, in a film
Yes.
we've got to have him talk to himself or some other thing. Like I think Castaway has got Wilson to talk to. Like you've got to have something to project onto. And I think if Touch and Avoid was a straight dramatization, it wouldn't have that.
Yeah, so I think like a reason it works so well, like it is with the talking heads as well, is whereas in 127 hours, all of the crazy shit that happens is like, oh well, they've taken liberty with it,
Yeah.
creative liberties. Whereas with this, because you've got the actual Joe and Simon there,
Yeah.
telling you exactly what happened, or
From their perspective,
from their perspective, it really really grounds it and makes it a lot more believable.
And while there'll still be manipulation in there, it feels a lot less manipulated. It feels like we're getting it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of like how they were feeling. And I love there's a very sort of warts and all thing about like when he's like, because he basically thinks he's killed his friend, and he's quite frank about like what that was like and how he was thinking. He was like,
Yes.
I just felt I'd just go to sleep for the night and try and, it was interesting seeing those things, and like them being that sort of. I feel like if it was done from like a documentarian looking in, they tried to like sensationalized it more. And, but they were like, no, it was just this is how it was.
Well, because there was something like Simon did say like he doesn't like the documentary because he thinks he comes off really bad from it. I was like, I think he actually doesn't come off that bad.
No,
because yes, he cut the rope, but as he says, and as Joe said, Joe's like, oh, I don't blame him, because Joe's like, I can't remember which of them says it. It's like either I cut the rope and Joe dies, or I don't cut the rope and we both die.
Yeah, exactly, and that's because at the end there's the like little title card thing saying like, oh, this caused outrage in the climbing community because of the cutting the rope, except Joe like defended him completely.
Yeah, because it is based on Joe's autobiography,
right?
So I think it's closer. So obviously that's where they take the scenes, because he really, really in-depthly describes all the whole thing. And in the book, he got Simon to write that chapter with the rope cutting.
That makes a lot of sense, because obviously, like, to have based on that book, his is a story with more in it. But if he did, he literally has no idea what was going through Simon's head at the time of the rope cutting. So it makes sense to have him do that, yeah.
Also, doesn't he say, like, oh, I would have done the same thing?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, like, so with the whole scene is they explain in detail, like, the mechanics of the rope and how it all works, which I thought was really good. But, like, so they explain how, the physics of it, they explain the situation, they explain, this is what happened, this is why I can't do anything, and therefore, because I can't do anything, he's just, like, losing his grip up there. The only thing he can feasibly do is cut the rope. And to not do that would be basically suicide. So it's, there's nothing I can do. He might as well do it. And I was like, that's a really good rationale.
Yeah, and I was because I think he was upset by how it portrayed him, and I was like, I don't think it's that negative. Firstly, but also, can you imagine how overly sensationalized and villainized he would be if it was made into like a feature film?
Exactly, yeah, and that's why I think it works a lot better as a documentary, because you get a much more honest portrayal. There's no sensationalization to make it Hollywood sort of like a protagonist and antagonist. It's just two friends in a very horrible situation, and this is how they honestly reacted, which is much more compelling.
Because you get his monologue, but then you also get straight away you get Joe defending him, and I think that's really, really vital to his how you perceive him in the film.
Then meanwhile, you come back to the third guy being like, I decided I'd think about which one I prefer to come back. And it's like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, I guess it's a bit cold. Yeah, it's a bit cold. Cool mountain rescue.
Yeah, he was fucking useless, that guy.
But also, it is strange they just stood around for that long, like, waited there. Like, it seems weirdly convenient. I was fully expecting Joe to come back and they'd have gone, and he'd have to be like, right, we're now going to crawl into the village. Or I was thinking I thought Mountain Rescue would turn up eventually. Like, that's why they withheld it, because they've done it, and then for dramatic purposes, they're going to turn up. But no Mountain Rescue.
No.
I'm really holding on to that, but, like, it just seemed like, just, why?
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, if they're in Peru and it's the 80s, it might be more difficult, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you would expect him to send off old fucking tent keeper McGee to go and do something useful, but I guess not.
Also, the Boney M sequence was really good.
Yes, that's what I was about to mention. So, that is completely just fiction filmmaking there, and it's like, that scene is fucking brilliant, I think. So, towards the end of the film, when Joe has finally managed to get down off the mountain, and he, like, drinks water for the first time in ages. Is it before then or after then?
I think it is after he's drunk the water,
yeah, he's drunk the water and he's now, like, in these rocks. And he's, like, just shouting for...
He's freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, shouting for Simon, and he's just sort of tripping out, and he's like, I genuinely thought I was going to die. I was going mad, and all I could hear in my head was this one song by Boney M. And then they take this... That scene is so good, because the visuals on screen...
Yeah.
They take a lot of liberty with it. They just have the recreation actor just fucking tripping out, and they have Boney M play.
Yeah.
And then you see pictures of animal bones and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die." And it's like there's so many visual things in there, and it's just like this works so well, and that sequence is so good.
It's also so dryly funny. Like there's a great irony to, like, you know, I mean, in my head, I'm normally having songs I like playing all the time. I have, you know, the things on my Spotify playlist. The idea of the, you know, slowly driving yourself insane and, you know, on the brink of death, and the only thing you can think of in your head is a song you hate. There's something so dryly funny about that. I love the sort of the way, as again, with having that testimony of him there, telling us exactly what it was like, and having that sort of like just also quite frank discussion of it just added to the humour of that scene, and then cut to him like tripping the fuck out with like Boney M playing. It was just such a funny scene.
So, what do you think of, in terms of the truth, how truthful do you think this is?
I mean, no documentary's real, obviously.
Yeah,
but
true.
You know, but for the sake of this, I
Truth is a lie.
I would say this seems like a relatively realistic documentary. Like, because you've got the talking heads of specifically the people involved, I feel like it has a certain feel that this is how it happened. Like, this is, you know, because they describe in such detail exactly what was going through their heads, the actions they took, and it feels clear that they remembered it. So
yeah,
the only thing is, if it was in the 80s, obviously like 2 decades have passed by the time they made the film.
Yeah.
So then there's, I guess, the question of how much of that is stuff they've sort of embellished over the years and forgotten.
Well, because that's why I think they take a lot of it from the book, because I think he wrote the book straight away.
Yeah.
So I think it's more like, okay, the book's going to be more accurate than my memory is, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, he might have even like read the book prior to doing the interviews, so it was like all fresh, of course.
Yeah. Also consistent, I guess.
Yeah. Well. Imagine if you were doing your like recounting the story of your like epic feat of whatever back in the day, then the direct documentarian stops and goes, actually, that's not what you wrote in the book. Can you do it again? And you're like, oh shit, really? I don't remember writing that at all.
It's I think it is very good for how it portrays its version of the truth.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, whereas with something like Tiger King, where you can have, you know, multiple versions of it, and you can have all the testimonies of the people who are there, and all of these differing versions, and all of these, you know, Louis made a documentary, this other guy's made a documentary. There's all of these various different things. You can watch his web series about it, all of this random crap.
Yeah, there's so much documentation of it.
Yeah, whereas this, without this documentary or the book that he wrote, like, we wouldn't know about it at all. We wouldn't have any idea it even happened.
In fact, there were literally like just only 2 people involved. I mean, 3, but one did fuck all. But there's two people involved, and it was in the middle of a mountain. Like there are only 2 perspectives on it, and the film has both of them. Like unlike Taking, which has like hundreds of perspectives, and
it's just very believable, and it is. Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I'd absolutely recommend it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it's very well constructed. It's entertaining. It's gripping. I think it's a very appropriate
It is very
word.
gripping. Yeah. Also, the bit where the cut the rope scene is really good. I think that's very well constructed.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're happy with that one, Nick, next time I think we will talk about a film I've already suggested for people to watch, which is "I'm Not Your Negro."
Yes, which was on BBC Two last week as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. So give that a watch.
I shall. And if you guys want to watch at home, you can, and send in your thoughts.
That's just another documentary that's really good. So we can talk about that.
And very appropriate in terms of current situations.
It is very appropriate.
Yeah.
Because it is all about civil rights and James Baldwin, so it'll be interesting to see what you think of it.
Give it a watch this weekend.
Yeah.
See how we do. Okay, so I think we'll leave it there for this week's episode. You've been listening to Ciné Rambles with Nick.
And Andrew.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CinéRamblesOfficial.
You can find us on Twitter at Ciné Rambles.
And for more information, you can read the blog over at cinerambles.blogspot.com.
And if you want to email us any questions or call us pricks or something, email us at cinerambles@gmail.com.
Okay, so Andrew, have you got any final remarks?
Truth is a construction.
Wake up, sheeple. Even this podcast is a lie.
It's true. You edit it heavily.
That is true. To make me seem better and you seem... yeah. Good night.
Good night. Good day. Good morning.
Whenever you're listening to this.
Yes. You know what? I'm going to just go with a solid goodbye.
Oh. Universal. Goodbye.
Bye.